Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Eric. I serve here at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, and we're so glad for everyone from our own congregation who stuck around and to enjoy some lunch and the presentation. We also want to welcome all of those who are from other congregations or perhaps from across our synod who are here as well to be a part of this presentation today. So we're excited to have this group gathered here for Pedal for People, and I'm going to turn it over now to Jim Oines to say more about the presentation and introduce the other speakers today.
I really appreciate all of you coming after we rode 8,000 miles 50 years ago. And so you can kind of imagine what you were like 50 years ago. And then you can kind of watch you can see exactly what they look like. I want these guys to stand up here. And, first of all, I'll explain a little bit. Maybe John's going to explain this too, but John and Peter, actually I had an OM1, Olympus OM1 camera, and we bought one for John in Panama. And John and Peter have developed all these slides. We took them from an RGB, double negative rolls, but maybe John's going to explain all that. But anyway, they're the ones we need to thank for getting the slides looking so good, including Peter's son, Nicholas, who did some special digital stuff on them. And I also really want to thank Jasmine Chang, who is our tech back. Wave your hand, Jasmine. And I think it's Molly's new here. What's your name, Molly? Milo is a new tech, and Jasmine, who is so good, is teaching her. And I especially want to thank Pastor Eric, who has kind of been with us all the way through, helping us get this organized. And Kathleen Sands, who helped us get the advertising out and things like that. I want to thank her. But before we start, I would like to offer a prayer. Let us pray. O divine Creator, out of the void you brought forth the universe. And in this universe you sent a round rolling planet with mountains, streams, deserts, wildflowers, and many people have made their relationship in this wonderful planet. The Incas way down there, who now speak Aymara and Quechua, and the Aztecs, we acknowledge their relationship to the earth, and we give you thanks, Lord, for that. We also acknowledge the Chumash people who have lived in this area for 13,000 years. And so we make that land acknowledgement of their relationship with the earth. And of course, we thank you that the rabbits, los conejos, have cared for this place. And we also thank you for people that these guys will recognize their names: Dick Gunderson, Bob Gussick, Arnfeld Mark, and other brave Christians who has preached the gospel in Latin America. And we thank you that they have brought that wonderful gospel. And we give you thanks for this day. And we pray that you will walk with us and help us to overcome our separation from the earth and still continue our relationship, and help us to overcome separation of any kind in the land. Help us to see how the walls can come down in the name of He who broke down the dividing wall of hostility. We pray. Amen. And So we're going to, by the way, John and Peter are going to disappear. They're going to be right because they're at slide advancer. Works better when it's backed by Jasmine. So they're going to disappear, and Jeff and I are going to stay up here.
He went to Augustana College, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, graduated in 71, started Luther Seminary. I did the same, but I went to Capital University, a Lutheran college in Columbus. That's when I met Jim, the Norwegian. He always had his coffee pot going, so it was kind of a coffee pot friendship, you know, those Norwegians. And we knew each other pretty well, but frankly, after that year, I wasn't sure I was going back. I was going to go into camp directing, and so I left on an early internship. And I ended up at Trinity Lutheran in Ventura, and it was a 2-year, my friends give me a hard time about this, beach ministry in Ventura. If you ever heard of Horizon of Ventura, there was a ministry that kept going for many, many years. Well, back then, no cell phones, no anything, but I was also at the Bible camp in the summer for a couple months, and one of the counselor said, hey, you got to come back with me. This was after I'd been there a year. Somebody's here. Well, she was in Rancho Palos Verdes, and here's Jim Oines. Now, after his second year was there. And so during that year, we talked a lot about what we might do and dreaming a little bit. I met Peter early on, and he and I were the adventurers. He and I really started the Sea to Summit bike ride. You may or may not have heard of it. Went from Ventura up top of Mount Pinos. And we started, and we call it the pizza and beer ride, but later, that was another ride. But anyway, we were friends. Jim and I were friends, and the year was about over, and nothing had been planned. It was like a lot of 20-year-olds, talk, nothing. We ended up at what was called then the South Pacific District Convention of the Old American Lutheran Church. It was at LAX, and we were going to go out to eat. I was going to try to finalize this thing that we're really going because our internship was over. And a pastor named Fred Lee from Newberry Park said, what are you guys doing next year after internship? And I blurted out, well, we're going to go on a bike ride to South America. As I recall, Jim kicked me under the table. I don't know if that's true. Nothing was planned. And he said, oh, really? Tomorrow at the convention, we are going to start a national appeal called the United Mission Appeal. Let me talk to the bishop. Well, that was Gaylord Faldy. And I'll never forget, we saw him about midnight that night. We said, what'd the bishop say? Well, he said he greeted that with cautious optimism. You know, good bishop. The next day, Jim and I, you hardly know where South America is. This is 1974. But anyway, I talked first to this whole convention, 1,200 people. Then Jim talked. And people applauded, and at least 200 people came by and shook our hands, said, that's really wonderful. Meantime, Jeff Stoopes was volunteer with Lutheran Youth Alive, and he saw this, and at the end of it, I said, not all the details have been planned. What Jeff didn't know was none of the details had been planned. Not one thing. We thought we were going to Lima, but we ended up going to La Paz. We thought it was going to be 6,000 and 8,000. It was 8,300. And then this Fred Lee, God bless him, Newberry Park, he reached out to the national church, and then we got sent off, like you just elected your new bishop, congratulations. Back then, it was in Detroit, Michigan that year, Cobo Hall, and we were special guests, October 13th, 1974. They brought us up front. Somebody gave us a jar of pennies, some little kid. They sang a song. They're on their way for the UMA. That was United Mission Appeal. And out the door we went. And I mean, that was May of 74 was the convention here. October was the national convention, and then the rest you're going to hear in the story. And as Peter reminded me, it's appropriate, 50 years later, we're back here because everything started here. Jeff was down here from Oregon. Jim was he's from South Dakota, and he was intern at Rancho Palos Verdes. And I was here in my internship, and Peter lived here. So here we are back 50 years later, and with that, enjoy the show. it ended up to be that many miles and long ride. So you heard the four of us. So you kind of see the map here. During this time between May and October, we named it Pedal for People. Second in line was Spokesman for Christ. We thought that might be a little presumptuous, but we stuck with Pedal for People, and that's the map. We said 8,000, turned out to be 8,300. This was our publicity. The UMA gave us $1,000 for publicity for the whole nation. And we had a few of these and a few brochures, and you'll see the picture of the shirt here coming up, that this is Pedal for People. We wore these shirts. I'm supposed to be doing this here. You do it, Peter. Forward that one to the picture. Anyway, off we went. We started in the other way, I guess. Yeah. We'll get this. We'll get it. Anyway, Pedal for People began, and Peter's going to get us rolling here.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, this is the convention, the national convention in Cobo Hall, Detroit, Michigan, October 13th, 1974. That's the day we left. That's David Preuss. He was the president, and we were looking good in those days. Right on that day, everything was brand new, and we hadn't done anything yet.
We haven't changed one bit.
So to introduce the foursome, Jim Oines, who you know. He looks like a rugged Norwegian, and he is. That's him on the trip. And it's Pastor James Oines. Jeff Stoopes. He's from Oregon. He's like a mountain man. He's got legs like lumber. I mean, they're huge. And he's just a jovial guy. And he attracted crowds wherever we went. He's like a rock star. He now has a thing called Bear Paw Adventures. He takes people on adventures, and this is kind of a funny thing. My son Nick did that. I come from Ventura, California. I was 22 right there. There's me on the trip. And a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago, whatever, Jim Oines, who organized this whole thing, thank you, Jim Oines, he said, has anybody got one of our old shirts? And I thought, well, I think I do somewhere. And then I thought, well, I wonder if it fits. And so I tried it on, and I wouldn't wear it in public, but there it is. That's 50 years old. And
none of the rest of us would even try that, so Peter did pretty well.
John Cross, who you've met, that's him actually on the ride as well. And here as well, climbing a steep hill in Mexico on a hot day. He's also done several rides. He's crossed the country a couple of 2-3 times, like 11,000 miles in a couple of space of 2 years, about what, 10 years ago or something?
Yeah, well, 2011.
2011, okay. And now John's going to take it.
Let's see, what's my button?
It's the bottom one.
Bottom one, all right.
To advance it. That one right there.
Okay. Well, we were on TV a lot, 10 times, many radio shows. Here we are at AM Detroit. It was the biggest show in Detroit. And to set this up, they ignored us, and we're riding around in circles. The guy on the far right, for people like Paul Evenson, who I knew from seminary, you might remember Hal Dragsapp. And one of them is L. David Brown, who was involved with World Hunger and somebody else. Anyway, finally somebody said, what are you guys doing here? What's going on? And that was our promo, so we came in, and that was at the convention, during that time, and so that was our first big time on TV. So we had this send-off. I had a friend there, Joanne Cumbo and her family. This was us packing the night before we left. I tell you, we kept dropping stuff off all along the way, but everything was new here, as you can see. We don't have many pictures. I'm pretty sure that the lady to the far right is Jim's aunt. Is that right, Jim? A handshake, a relative of Jim's. And that's us coming out Cobo Hall. Infamously, one of the guys said, well, which way is south? And I said, I don't know, let's go around the corner. And a little girl said, where are y'all going? We said, South America. She said, you're liars. So off we went, and let's see here. What am I goofing up? Okay, new friendships, everything new, as Peter had said. So Jim, Jeff, and Peter, and we stopped at churches all along the way. We stopped at 33 churches. It was a Sunday we spoke at church. It was during the week. We had potluck dinners. Here we are in Indiana. That guy, I just remember his name was Ned. That's all I remember. But all the way through Iowa, like Pastor's great sermon today, we saw a lot of silos here, a lot of wheat, a lot of corn, and a lot of problems. We could have had better equipment, but broken spokes, flat tires. It hailed there in Indiana. We had several days of rain, but, you know, we were starting to toughen up. This shows you the excitement of Peabody, Kansas. We only stayed there one night. And a good friend of mine, James Munter, lived in Fremont, and he took this picture of all of us, left to right. Of course, John, Jeff, Jim, and Peter. My friend was noted as a long preacher, and the joke was we left after being introduced, but he had one more service, and we had a bike all the way to Lincoln, which was 50 miles, and the joke was we got to Lincoln before he quit preaching. So that's not true, but it was, you know, a little bit. All the way to Texas, we went as many as 180 miles in a day and a half. We planned it from a beautiful office, but now we had to do it. And finally, we got to San Antonio, Texas. We were there. Luckily, Jim's cousin, Don Oines and family, we stayed there. It was wonderful. And there we go.
Okay, so we're about to cross into Mexico, and we thought to ourselves, well, we're going to be representing, so why don't we clean up our act a little bit? Maybe we ought to get a trim.
Just a little.
Just a little trim. So we went to Carlos's barbershop. And now we're ready to represent, and we're going to cross the border into Mexico. There's a map of it. Monterrey, all the way San Luis Potosí, Mexico City. We stayed a month in Mexico City learning Spanish, and then Puerto Arista down at the bottom. That's the last stop almost in Mexico before we went into Guatemala. This is crossing into Mexico right there. Again, everything's new, and we got our new haircuts, although Jim's looking pretty good. And so here we go. We're going into Mexico. There we are, first day. And we're trying to fit in, you know. We're kind of faking it till we make it the whole way. And we're really in Mexico. I guess we're doing this. And so we found we tucked in behind this guy, and we thought, okay, we fit right in. He's got more than we do. This is what we carried. This is what John carried, about 50 pounds of gear, not counting the bike. Bike's fully packed. That's what they look like. Sometimes you goof around, you take a break. I thought, well, maybe I ought to try this. It's got a bigger basket on the front.
That didn't last long.
We got to cook. This is the first time we're cooking. My wife can tell you I'm not a very good cook, and here we are figuring out how to not only cook, but cook while we're camping and riding bikes in a foreign country.
Am I going to do this? Yeah. Pastor Munner had a friend named Brother George, had a ministry in Galeana. And we met Brother George, and we decided to hike up this mountain. And so we're walking up there, and this guy, as we were going through a cemetery, said, let me guide you. His name was Alejandro, I think. So we're walking up there. I guess it was just Peter and me. And anyway, here he is, just a classic Mexican man, good man, walking up. We knew a little Spanish, not too well, but we could understand. His shoe fell apart partway up, but he had some nails in his poncho, and he did a little shoe repair up there. I'll never forget that. And while we were up there, he was telling us about his house. Nice house, beautiful, great family. He wanted us to see it, and so there it was. And you can imagine, as 4 young men, we're just learning these things, and how many of us, if that was our home, would eagerly invite somebody to come and see. It was a whole different world for us, understanding poor people, poverty. But the thing was, they were happy. They loved God, and we're learning all the way through. You know, again, we're just in our early 20s, and that's the way it goes. They were leaving, these donkeys. He had more gear than we did there. And old Jim here, we're kind of on our way to Mexico City eventually. We had a Frisbee that went the whole way. It looks like it's flying saucer. See the yellow Frisbee there. But we would always have fun with the locals. Ishtashiwato is Sleeping Lady. You might see the Sleeping Lady there. All right, guys. But anyway, that's in Mexico City. We were on TV, probably the biggest coverage we had, and they asked us a question in Spanish, and have you ever seen 4 more confused-looking guys there on the right? was like, duh.
What'd he say? What'd he say?
Forget what he said exactly, but anyway, there we were, and that was fun. We went to church. This was a Lutheran church. We went there and we sang and we had communion like we did today. Pastor there's Jim up there. We all had great hair, but I always thought Jim, that Norwegian, had the best hair. Boy, he had that red hair going on. And I play the guitar a little bit. Jim definitely sings the best, but we would lead songs, and we were integrating into the culture here along the way. We also studied Spanish in Mexico City. And then, I think this was the American Bible Society, they gave us tracts, like the Psalms, to pass. They wanted us to take several boxes. We already had 50 pounds, but we did. And then also somebody, that was at we stayed at the Lutheran Seminary there. Someone made up these tracts, and it said, Presentando, and it had Peter Crane, John Cross, Jim Oines, and it told who we were, Jeff Stoopes, and on the back it explained the trip. We passed out hundreds of those. I ran into somebody 15 years later, and they saw us on some restaurante in Nicaragua all those years later. And I don't know if you know what skeptical means. We told them we were going to Bolivia. I don't think they believed us. But they always wondered who was Guapo, who was Feo. Guapo's good-looking, Feo's not so good-looking. But I think I ran into yours, buddy.
No, that's fine. Mexico City was built on a lake bed. This is a cathedral. It's a church, several hundred years old. It's not level. You can see that. That's because of the foundation that it was built on. We played tourist a lot wherever we could. These are the Aztec in Mexico City. The pyramids, we actually climbed those, and seemed like it was quite a, what is the deal here? There we go. It was quite a task to climb to the top of that ancient edifice in Mexico City. You know, we were always reminded of the danger down there. You know, along the highways there were crosses where people would have died. They would put up a cross, and you know, every day we were riding along the edge of a 2-lane road most of the time, trucks and buses and cars, and this was a very nice day, coasting downhill, beautiful asphalt, got a nice edge for your safety. And we would coast down these hills, you know, and enjoy the day. But then oftentimes up the other side, it's hot. And John, I don't know. I think that's in Mexico.
That's southern Mexico. Yeah. It was hot, yeah.
And is it you? Was it me? Oh, yeah. Anything that comes along unexpectedly that you can take advantage of, like a little waterfall, this is a great opportunity to take a shower or slide down the rock. That's Jim on the right, me on the left. Stopping for fruit, fresh fruit in abundance. Melons and guava and all sorts of things, apples and bananas, and I think it's you now.
Okay. The camping out, I don't think we stayed in one approved campground the whole time. They're mostly for the rich out on the coast. It's like, hey, can we camp out here? And they said, yeah, down by the river. So these kids came by and took us to the river. We didn't always have a river. We could wash ourselves and the pots and pan. And these kids came by at 5 in the morning to make sure we were okay. And cute little kids. But we were beginning to fall in love with the people. They were kind, generous. A lot of people spoke about the dangers of going down there. We found nothing but love and kindness and goodness as we went along. Pastor Franco, I remember, he was in Oaxaca. We later sent him some Bibles. Lutheran pastor in Oaxaca. And that town there, southern Mexico, has the tule tree. They claimed it was the biggest tree in the world as far as circumference. You can see it's at least 4 bicycles wide. And these kids here are dwarfed by the tule tree there in Oaxaca. So I'll see Monte Alban there, but we didn't see that. We're getting close to we hadn't seen the ocean. You know, Peter's from Ventura, Monterey, and Jim, I remember, wasn't feeling well, but he perked up. We wanted to get to the ocean before the sunset. Oh, yeah, I'm jumping in there. Excuse me.
You can have it.
You got to hit me.
I did. So we decided to go to the ocean. We made a right turn and heading to Puerto Arista. I pointed it on the map earlier. It's one of the most southern parts of Mexico. And we wanted to get there before sunset, and we just made it. This is one of my favorite pictures of all that we took. We set up the camera and just stood there. Does anybody think we're facing the ocean, or are we facing the camera?
We're not sure.
We're not sure. Can you tell who's who? Yes, that's Jim Oines on the left. John Cross next to him. I'm next over, and then Jeff on the right. What we discovered was breakfast in bed.
Not bad.
Not bad. You know, they would bring you the jugo de piña, pineapple juice, and some sweet bread, and just, you know, we took a couple of days off here, and it was really nice. So now we're heading into Guatemala, Central America. It's still 1974. No, it's 1970. I don't know. We spent Christmas in Mexico City. It's probably 75.
Yeah.
January 75. Yeah. And going into Guatemala. And they have these, what do you call that fruit, John?
Cushion.
And that's a good picture of us. We just stopped and decided to take in some cushion. It was delicious. You might notice the bug bite stuff on my legs. Mosquitoes could be horrendous at times. And more into Guatemala. And this is waterfalls. Lake Atitlan, where we spent some time there.
Okay, I guess up to be here. So yeah, Lake Atitlan was surrounded by 12 villages, a lot of indigenous people there, and one of them was kind of for what I guess we used to call hippies, like maybe we were, but we stayed there and enjoyed our time there. We had an opportunity to see this mountain. It's called Pacaya, and it was erupting. And Dr. Lee Hune took us there. As you see where we are, we got there before dark. But we decided to go down and then up the other side all the way to the top. And I don't know, every 2 or 3 minutes, Pacaya would explode. And sometimes the clouds would go through. We couldn't see it. And we knew it was a little dangerous. But I remember once it seemed like the loudest one. And the clouds we couldn't see it. And all of a sudden we hear kerplunk. And here was a lava bomb as big as a big softball landed within 10 feet of us. And I tell you, it did not take us long to get down that mountain. I mean, we did a lot of dumb things. That was one of the dumber ones. But sadly, we had cameras stolen. We were never, ever had anybody take things from us, but we made the mistake of leaving them in a trunk of a car. And so the pictures from that were all taken. So that's all we have. But it was a different culture. About 60% of the people in Guatemala are indigenous. The clothes are different, hand-to-mouth existence. There were a lot of missionary work. A lot of these we did not know about, but this was a mission. This little one was up for adoption. I remember this girl here, Susana. She was going to be adopted. And one woman to the left was a volunteer. I think she was from Minnesota, and we met them, and that's me there. Just talking to these people, seeing what good works are doing. This was a whole group there. Several of these people were doctors, dentists who would come down for 2 or 3 months or weeks and offer free service. They had clinics all around Guatemala, and you could go there and have dental work and other kinds of things. So this was Dr. Patajon. His wife was from the United States. We stayed with them. Again, we didn't know them when we started. We got to know them. Wonderful kids. We were learning as we went. Learning about mission, learning about God, and it was a wonderful thing. So I remember we came into Lake Atitlan. It would be so steep that we went in at night, dumbly, and our brakes were actually smoking. Getting water was a problem, and so Jim says, well, I think I can find some water. So he did. So he dipped his water bottle into the cow trough there. We had little droplets iodine called microdin, and we'd put in an extra one there. But sometimes we didn't have any water. You just do the best you can. And here we are doing our laundry. And I love to show the people this. This is hanging up our towels to dry. I think that was the end of the line, wasn't it, Peter?
I think it was.
You tell me when it's, you got this, yeah.
This is Costa Rica, and sometimes we'd split up. 2 of us would do something, some other 2 would do something else, a little free time. So John and I hopped a train to the Caribbean side of Costa Rica. And on the way there, you see houses on stilts, a lot of rain there and flooding, I would imagine. We got to this beach, and we stayed a couple days, played some Frisbee there. I threw it out into the lagoon there, and John went after it and stepped on a sea urchin.
Ouch.
And it's like hundreds of little spiky needles, and he was kind of laid up for a while. we saw the locals there climbing these trees to get coconuts. So that was John. He got about halfway up and he goes, well, this isn't working.
That's how not to do it.
So I watched them closely, and I saw what they did. They grabbed it with their hands. They leaned way out, the last thing you'd want to try and do, and get more traction with your feet. And you can actually climb that. And I got up to the top of that tree, and then I saw them kick those coconuts. So I kicked a couple of those coconuts down, and I don't remember. I remember it was hard to get back down. And when I did, there was a guy with a machete that opened it up for us, and we had fresh coconut juice. Yeah, I think it is.
That was just one more of the clinics. We were so impressed because people are so poor, and they had all these remote clinics. Well, in this case, there was a woman there. We'd met her before, but she, by flashlight at night, it took her about 2 hours, got all the spines from the sea urchin out of my foot, and they could have been really infected. So I was really helped by that too. Every country was a border crossing. You had to show your passport. We had to get the visa, usually in the country before. Most visas didn't last, 60, 90 days, maybe 30. They would check us out, and we never really had any problems. And finally, we got to a huge point, the Thatcher Ferry Bridge. We are obviously not ready for this picture, but it's the only one we have, but that's the bridge that goes over the Panama Canal, which was still owned by the United States. So we went across that, and there were some missionaries there. But here, that's me on the right, Peter on the left, but looking out toward the west to imagine another continent. South America's coming up. But between Panama and Colombia is a stretch of 100 kilometers, 60 miles, called the Darien Gap. And we met a man who was an engineer who later sent us these pictures. We decided this was not very good for bicycling. So we just got the pictures. There have been people walking through there. We decided not to do that. We were going to take a boat. We figured it'd be cheaper, but what'd we do, Crane Boy?
We took a plane.
I love how they decorated it. And and that's, as you're coming in there, we saw that. So, all right, so we're going to turn this over to Milo, and this is Jasmine, and enjoy this Sweet Surrender. It's a great song. I hope as you see us traveling, you imagine your own dreams and your own thoughts. It still seems contemporary to us 50 years later. Pictures from all over the trip.
Lost and alone on some forgotten highway, traveled by many, remembered by few, looking for something that I can believe in, looking for something that I'd like to do with my life. There's nothing behind me and nothing that ties me to something that might have been true yesterday. Tomorrow is open. Right now it seems to be more than enough to just be here today. And I don't know what the future is holding in store. I don't know where I'm going, I'm not sure where I've been. There's a spirit that guides me, a light that shines for me. My life is worth living, I don't need to see the end. Sweet, sweet surrender. Without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live lost and alone on some forgotten highway, traveled by many, remembered by few, looking for something that I can believe in, looking for something that I'd like to do with my life. There's nothing behind me and nothing that ties me to something that might have been true yesterday. Tomorrow is open. Right now it seems to be more than enough to just be here today. And I don't know what the future is holding in store. I don't know where I'm going, I'm not sure where I've been. There's a spirit that guides me, a light that shines for me. My life is worth the living, I don't need to see the end. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air. Sweet, sweet surrender. Live without care, like a fish in the water, like a bird in the air.
Back. I'm not sure. As you'll see, as we get this ready, John Denver was not always singing on the trip.
So we're in South America now. The 4 countries: Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. We went from sea level to over 15,000 feet. Arnfeld Mork. We stopped, and so there's Jim, missionary in Colombia.
I think he'd been there 30 years. Let me go. This was a Lutheran school called Sogamosa, and you can see this one and the next one here. The kids were happy. These kids were blessed. They were able to go to a private school. Of course, not all the children were able to, but it made us feel good that Lutheran Church was a part of the school. Arnfeld Mork happened to be at ALC, an Old American Lutheran Church, and we learned a lot from him. We thought biking in South America was dangerous, but if you ride a bus in Colombia, that's where the adventure is. We have all kinds of stories that we will not tell. Just use your imagination. This was in Cali, where we flew into, and the guy on the left, by the way, was my RA, my resident assistant at Capital University, only about 3 years earlier. So there he was. His wife was from Norway, and the kids spoke English, Norwegian, and Spanish. So it was kind of cool. This was the first day cycling in South America. Cali's about 3,700 feet elevation. The national sport, a lot of great bike racers in Colombia. You hear about them in the Tour de France. And also just a lot of regular folks that would ride along. We'd talk. After Mexico City, our Spanish was good. And by the way, Jim, by far, was our linguist. He really got the knack of speaking Spanish and later preached in Spanish. I think I missed one there, but waterfalls everywhere. It was green. It was beautiful. It was abundant. Very rainy part of the world. These waterfalls were so amazing. We would stop and stop, but sometimes it was hard to stop biking down just to take the picture. It would rain, and then it would clear up. We'd try to dry stuff out. It would rain, but beautiful. This is one of our favorite campsites. I grew up in Ohio. We didn't have many campsites like that in the Buckeye State. But you just look out there. We woke up in the morning. It was just unbelievable. The beautiful flowers. And you could see that it's different now. It's in South America. Not, as you know, not all these countries are the same. In fact, none of them are the same. They're each distinct, unique. And still, along the way, problems. Jeff either had a broken spoke or a flat tire. Peter, who was the fun-loving one, somehow got that horse. I don't know if he rode down the road or not. But these ladies were checking us out. And she was saying, ¿Dónde viene? Where'd you come from? Detroit, Michigan. ¿Dónde van? Where are you off to? La Paz, Bolivia. And she said, why don't you come over and we'll have some comida here, some food. So she's over there cooking away. And I tell you, what were these called, Peter? Tapas?
Tapas.
And it was great. We enjoyed them. We were, as you can only imagine, we're now, in our 20s, mid-20s. We're learning, we're loving, we're communicating. It's an experience of a lifetime. I think this is Peter's here.
Only because I got some of this sugar cane. I go, okay, what do you have there? Well, sugar cane. So they made juice out of it. So I put it in my water bottle, and I forgot about it. The next day or two, my water bottle's going psh, 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 psh. And I thought, I got a flat tire.
I got a flat.
Yeah, but no, it was fermenting. Can't remember whether I drank it or not, but I don't know.
Yeah, let's see where we are here.
So, is it me?
You can go, yeah.
Okay, so the roads varied. This would be considered smooth compared to some of the roads we were on, and that's Jim, on a rock cobblestone road. I'll do this, and rainy. When it rained, we had these ponchos we'd put on just ride in the rain, and then let's see. And mud, if it wasn't paved, it'd be mud. And mud got into everything, spokes and chains and water bottles. And then it would, like John said, it would stop raining, get hot, and was humid. Sometimes you didn't care if you got rained on. It just felt good. It just got used to it, was it raining or not. Came into things like this, roads where there weren't any road, and we had to negotiate piles of dirt and whatever. We just kept going, just keep on pedaling. That's what we did day after day. This became our life. We crossed into Mexico. It was all new, and we didn't know what we were doing. We were able to speak Spanish. That Pedal for People sign on that bike was made by Jim Oines. He's the only one that put it on there, and that lasted the whole way, and it told everybody who we were. The ocean was amazing. I was from Southern California, and when we got to an ocean stretch, I just loved it. This is the unexpected train ride. We were going to take a side trip to Cuenca. You had to take the train there. So we got off the Pan American Highway, and we were going to take this train, and those are the tracks up into the Andes Mountains to Cuenca. So we were told to put our bikes there. We did, and we're waiting for the train. And these old, like, Wild West trains would come through, with the wheels that are just like the old days. And guys would come in on a push cart. People would congregate. And it was like a Grand Central Station, but that's their version of that. Here comes another train, and it's the old kind of like a steam train. And so he's greasing the wheels. And I remember we're standing there. I was watching that's me there. I was watching the train. It was ready to go, and it would go really slow. I'd go shoo, 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 shoo. And then it would go shoo, 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 shoo. And it's going nowhere. It's got no traction anyway. That it finally got on its way. And then they said, okay, you can load yours up now. So we did. I'm loading my bike on top. And Jim Oines, I think, he's helped me up with those bikes. I skipped one, but I was standing there, and the thing just took off with me on top.
Bye, Peter.
And I don't know where I'm going or what. And we went way up the mountain, and we went up there to get some water, and we came right back. And then they said, well, that's not your train. So anyway, we had all kinds of adventures like that. So I must have spent an afternoon there. We finally got to Cuenca, and then after we were in Cuenca, we came back and we're on the road again. Now here we are. Jeff Stoopes hit this going at a high speed, that big rut in the road, and I can't remember what he damaged on his bike, but he had to fix it. So here he is fixing it, and how do you fix it in the middle of nowhere? A guy came along with a hammer and said, here, use this.
Just what we needed.
Just what we needed. How do you fix a wheel with a hammer? But Jeff did, and he's on his way now, and we always said, this guy said, now you be more careful next time. So that was not the worst wreck of the trip. That belongs to me. I was just racing down. We had a beautiful road downhill, and we had no helmets, by the way. And I took a slide, got a road rash, and on my knee.
Going fast.
Going really fast. My face. And so what do you do? What you do is a truck came by and you load it up. And if I can switch this, and that's what we did. We went back to, what's the name of that town?
Pasto,
Colombia.
Colombia.
Where we had just spent a week, and so we knew where all the good places to eat were. But lucky would have it, there was a plastic surgeon there, and they used this microfiber stitches. And he said, my boy, you'll have no scars, don't worry. And he was right. While I was there, like what Carlos did back in Mexico, my shoes were falling apart, so I went to the cobbler. He nailed them shut. Those are tennis shoes.
It worked.
It worked. So what we knew all about the Rincon Colonial, our favorite restaurant, you could get a filet mignon, you could get pineapple juice, what was the asparagus soup? Asparagus soup.
Hot rolls.
Hot rolls. And if you didn't like it, if it wasn't cooked enough, they just brought you a new one. Get all that for $1.
$1.
We spent 3-4 days there, and then I was fine, and off we went back on the road. This was a lot of times all we would eat for hours. A little stand. There were some galletas, which are cookies. There was pop, and we would be, fortunate and grateful to have it to keep us going. Always looking for a restaurant. We found this restaurant one day. After our cameras were stolen, we were watching our bikes very carefully, so we'd always park our bikes in plain view. We went into this particular restaurant, and I think Jim Oines ordered chicken soup.
Chicken gumbo.
Yeah, chicken gumbo, and if you take a close look, it had a chicken foot in it. So anyway.
One move, I'm out of here.
It didn't stop the Norwegian. He dove right in. And, you come into some traffic jams along the way. You just kind of blend in with the traffic. There was no internet. You couldn't ask Siri, how long is this traffic jam or any of that. But this is the Linea Equinacial, I think. It's the equator, the equator, the line of the equator. The northern and southern hemispheres meet. So we decided to take a little siesta. We've been riding all day. Then we snapped a picture. What we would do on these pictures, we would set the camera up on a timer and guess on the timing of it. And we didn't always get it right, but we got this right. So that's northern and southern hemispheres there. One of us put one foot in one hemisphere and one foot in the other. We threw the frisbee from one hemisphere to the other, that kind of stuff. And this is Quito, Ecuador.
All right. We'd been on the road, I think, about 15, 16 days in a row. And Quito, Ecuador is at 9,200 feet. Back in Detroit, the first day we stayed in Toledo, Ohio, and a friend of mine had an aunt who lived there, and she says, all my niece, it lives in Quito, and she gave us her name, Mary Cadena, and 4 numbers. That was the phone number. We called her when we got there, and here we are. We stayed a week. Mary Cadena is from Ohio. Her husband, Polo Cadena, was the chief executive officer of the Nassau tracking station right outside of Quito, and their 2 kids. And I tell you, that was a great stop. I can tell you, after being out, we sometimes wanted to stay the rest of the trip at these places, but back on the road again. As Pete said, traffic jams we had along the way, patchwork farming in Ecuador, absorbing it all. It was funny because Jeff would have some reference of Oregon, Jim would have some reference of South Dakota, Pete would have some reference of California coast, and I would have some Ohio. But certain places reminded each of us separately. This night, we were 13,000 feet. I remember we didn't get to where we wanted to go. The only thing we had to eat was 1 can of tuna and some popcorn. It hailed that night. It was kind of amazing. The next day, we went downhill and downhill. I think we went all the way to sea level. And
yes.
Then we ran into this guy.
This is a story that Jim Oines should tell. I mean, I'll do my best, but Jim would say, I took this guy's picture, I stopped, and he looked at me, and he gesticulated his arms, and he went, wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. I can't do it like Jim Oines can, but we don't know what he was saying. Perhaps there's trucks ahead or something, but colorful characters all along the way, and this was no exception.
And okay, so that night, after being up in this hail, all the way back down, look at Jim Oines, the Norwegian, balancing on that little bridge. That's pretty impressive, huh? It's, you know, probably with the bike 80 pounds there, and we camped there. We saw our first scorpion. And these guys were not dressed for Holy Trinity Church. So we met them. Peter was always bartering for a pineapple. So he bartered. I think he got a free fish. And we didn't have any place to carry it. So, oops. So we, I really goofed that up, Peter. I'll keep going. Let's see. Anyway, we caught up to, we put it there, and then we caught up to Jeff and Jim and didn't tell them. And one of them, hey, you got a fish on your bike there. Yeah, we ate it that night, of course. And this is just to let you know we always knew which way we were going. Jim was our Mr. Map. And so...
This is actual. We found an old tape, and so we thought we got to have this in here. It's authentic, 50-year-old. We've got it on a cassette tape. It's a little rough. Bear with us on that. It's in the middle of where you just saw. There's nothing there. The wind was howling, and I thought, let's put this in. So this is in the Atacama Desert.
Prevailing 30-mile-an-hour winds right in our faces.
This is a preface to the wind, and this is an actual recording John made along the coast here. It was really windy. Look at Jeff, you know, he's fighting the wind. We're tucked in behind, catching his draft. And this is John's.
So this is actual real deal back then. That's my glory picture to the right. I mean, I've never looked better than that. So certainly not 50 years later.
Here I am again. This is Sunday. I skipped yesterday. I just didn't get around to taping. Sitting right now. My back leaned against the bike here. We're at kilometer 744, which means Lima is 744 kilometers south. We're in the desert. We left, I suppose right now we're 18 miles south of a town called Chiclaya, C-H-I-C-L-A-Y-A. You'll see it on the map. Chiclaya. So up to Chiclaya and north of there about 20 miles, that was pretty much wooded. There's shrubs around and so on, but out here, there's nothing. I look out south and there's nothing. I mean, it's just sand and a few rocks. It's flat. We're traveling only about 3 or 4 miles from the ocean that way. And looking north and a little bit west, there's a range of mountains that just are barren mountains, sand blown all the way up this side of them. It almost looks like snow would lay on them. They're pretty old looking mountains.
Too long, almost a month. Well, the trip continued here. Let's see if I can figure out, Peter's better technology than I. There we go. I think you got this, buddy.
Yeah. So as earlier I said, it's dangerous, and you saw those crosses everywhere, and you know, here we are on our bikes, and we're on our, you know, we have no cell phones, and we have no way to get a hold of anybody if we need anything. So we were always aware of that, and we had devotions every day. We had a little, I was going to bring it, and I still have it. It's 50 years old. It's a little book of Psalms and the New Testament and Proverbs, and we read out of that every day, and we shared, taking turns doing that. And sometimes we were reflective. Sometimes we just took in the beauty like this. I mean, this is along the coast of Peru. That's Jeff standing there, the surging surf, and we decided to have devotion. So it was my turn to read this particular day, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but you know, can you imagine 4 guys? We're completely different. God brought us together for this trip, we believe, And it wasn't always easy. It's my turn to do the dishes. Well, you licked the pot. It was my turn for the pudding, or whatever it was. And so it was devotions that kept us together, and we realized how much we really needed each other.
And just last comment on that. If you think that we got along the whole trip, of course you're wrong. I later said it was kind of a reminder of marriage. You got to work it out. You got to communicate. Bob and Carly Engwall were missionaries in Lima, Peru. I remember we'd been 17 days on the road, and we arrived there. I remember there were 4 of us in a line. We took one whole lane of traffic coming into Lima. Nobody was upset. They were cheering us on. We felt like racers in the Tour de France. We got into the side neighborhood. We finally showed up, and Carly had a gallon of milk and 2 dozen warm chocolate chip cookies, and boy, was that nice. Welcome home, boys. Pastor Engwall ministered at Julio Teo, which was a very poor area, and what a ministry he had. So he showed us around there. I have one of those. It's a pillowcase. But this lady inside her house, her only furniture were old car batteries. She would make these and sell them, much like you're selling things to help your sister congregation in El Salvador. We're learning, again, by now we know a little more, but we're seeing God's work being done in all kinds of ways that we had never really seen before. Here's the church. I remember we sang by a tape recorder, and I played a little guitar. Like I said, Jim could sing well. 4 of us together, we'd learned a couple songs in Spanish, and we were learning along the way. I love this next picture because, if I can get to it, help me out, Peter. Get me to that next one. There we go. We have gone about 7,300 miles. We have 1,000 to go. It's a gray day. We got on that because it was windy. That kept us out of the wind. But you can see Peter's shirt's ragtag, my shirt's ragtag. The pots and pans have duct tape on them. Things are getting old. We're getting a little tired. And the trip had become our life. It was hard to remember before. It was hard to imagine after. We were in the trip in a way that I don't think I've ever been in the moment for my entire life. But off we went. But what kept us going were the kids. Little kids like that who would look up and look at us. And then this next one, Peter gave this tire. It was an old tire. That boy thought you'd think he gave him a $20 bill. He looking up at Peter there, admiring him. It was the people who kept us going, who brought cheer to our lives, and like these little kids here walking around. It was all the kids, and the funny thing, we'd give them those presentando, and I mentioned before, they'd say either feo or guapo. You'd hope they had guapo with you. That meant handsome. But we would talk to people for an hour or two. We'd just stop and have a Coke with them. And it was like they're friends in Christ, and they'd say goodbye, and off we went. We did that over and over again, and all of a sudden, we ran into some Lutherans from Minnesota in a Chevy Suburban named Kindred. And we had heard about them. They had heard about us, but they were delivering a Suburban to La Paz, Bolivia. And this day here I remember well because we'd gone 40 miles, and on our maps said there was a restaurant. Well, this was it. If you can't see that, it's Inca Cola. I got a kick out of that, Inca Cola. And that night, we went in, we sang, I think, a table grace, and the guy liked that. And so they started singing. We had a tape recorder, and the guy said, no grabadora. And we were a little embarrassed, like, oh, dumb gringos. Well, what he wanted to do was practice. And then when he's done, he said, yeah, grabadora. And then we played it, and at the next day, they went out they got all dressed up. I think there were 12 or 14 of them. They gave us some corn and rice for the road. Those were the things that made the trip go well. Those are the people. Go ahead, Peter.
So one day we were down the road, and John, sometimes we get separated by, you wait for him. There might be an hour or two. So John stopped. He saw us in this sand cliff next to the road. It was dry. It never rains there. These old graffitis, really, or their names mostly. So John wrote all our names, Pedal for People, our logo, where we started from, where we're going to, and the date, and it was July 18th. Yeah.
How do you like that artwork, guys?
So last July 18th, that would have been 50 years. We wonder if that's still there.
Yeah.
And he said to us, "Oh, and you should have seen this bus. The front was off the bus." And
They didn't believe me.
so, and we didn't see these pictures until we got back and they were developed. So we thought, well, yeah, the front window was out. Well, it was a little more than that.
I'd say, no, that didn't have a front. And they thought I was out. Sit down, John, have something cold to drink, relax a little bit. And I was redeemed about 2 months later.
So we're getting close to the end now. This is probably, early August or late July, 50 years ago. And we're coming into the last big town, Arequipa. It's called the White City in English. It's an agrarian community. It's pretty well to do. It's a proper city. I think it's the second largest city.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, and we're coming into, what's that? Is that Misty?
El Misty, 17,000 feet elevation.
And so, like always, we come into the center, the El Centro of a town, and Jeff was there that day, and they congregated around.
Let's see if he looks irritated. Guess not.
No, I think everybody was happy. That's what a good time looks like.
Yeah, right there.
So after Arequipa, we're about 300 miles from La Paz, so that doesn't seem like far, right? This is where the pavement ended. We never saw it again. And it was, and along that stretch, we went to the 8,000 miles. That's how far we thought we were going to go. But how do you commemorate that in the middle of nowhere? Well, that's how we're going to do. Oh, I know. We'll put some toilet paper across the road, and then we'll take our picture. That's 8,000 miles from Cobo Hall, Detroit.
Man. Probably nobody celebrated there before or since.
Yeah. So now this stretch was the hardest part of the journey because we're tired. Stuff is wearing out. We're running out of money. We're hungry a lot of the time. It's cold. It didn't dawn on us that when we were going to be up there, it's winter. It's like August. That's their winter in a high altitude. But in the day it would get hot, so we had to wind our way, switch back in it for a couple of days. And sometimes you say, well, wait a minute, here, this is connecting that other. Why don't we just push it up, and we'll save some time and mileage? So that's Jim leading the way, Jim Oines. This is the highest point of our trip, 15,395 feet above sea level, and we're up there on bicycles. We're looking a little rugged, tired, and you might look at our hands are looking a little dirty, but we're doing it, and we're getting excited because we're almost there. Alpacas roaming freely. It's llamas, sheep, fish. You could ride by and see these giant trout just swimming by. Nobody's fishing. And this is a shepherd as we were riding by one day, and he waved, and so we stopped, and he wanted to talk to us. We gave him our presentando, our tract, and he looks up and it's like, you did what?
Yeah.
And but that kind of thing happened all the time, and it was a camaraderie, a built-in camaraderie, and a time to talk to people about God, really. And this is the last border crossing. That is the Bolivian border as we arrived to it. Up on the Lake Titicaca, on the Altiplano, the high plains, the colorful people. The women wore bowler hats, and this is a common mode of transportation. Just jump on the back of a truck. Again, riding, and the animals roam freely, and it wasn't always easy. This is a pretty deep little stream that you have to, power your way through, and that's exactly what Jim's doing. Beautiful. It's like, if you put a casino and it's like Lake Tahoe, but it's up there, and it's just the water, the color of the water. It's beautiful. The reed boats. This is Lake Titicaca. It's the highest navigable lake in the world. And so we just, day after day, we got to be getting close, right, guys? And once in a while, again, we'd stop, and Jim spoke perfect Spanish by this time, and he would negotiate, or just they would offer, and we'd spend the night. And this must be the morning because he's doing the dishes. Sleeping out at night up there. It was frosty in the morning and wet, and so we would get up and put all our stuff out into the sun to dry. And I'll let John take it.
All right, so it's like high elevation Arizona or anywhere here. The end is in sight. None of us are feeling great, but we're moving along closer and closer to the end of this trip. But to keep things fun, this guy came down and he said, some people would read about us because, again, we were in many newspapers along the way, and they'd read about it. And this guy said, I want to see your equipment. So I said, well, I got this tire. He was pretty impressed with that. It was about the end of the road. And Jeff said, well, how about my gloves? They came from the United States. And then Jim says, well, here's my pad. we slept on that at night, and Jim had the smart idea, if you made a circle around the kerosene stove, you could stop the wind. Well, one night the wind blew it over the flames. So, and then Peter didn't know what he had, so he just turned around. He said, I got these back in Iowa, and they're about worn out. And the guy looked at them, and he just thought, oh, these guys. We had a lot of fun with a lot of people. You can see it got cold enough to freeze 2 quarts of water in our pan. You couldn't leave them in the plastic because you couldn't get them out. And also camping out in those Bolivian rocks, it's just amazing. Day after day, 12, 13, 14,000. You could see Jim there cooking some water, his little pad, we called it, is an insulate pad. And you'd almost want the dishwashing routine because the water was warm. You stick your hand in there because it really did get cold at night. We camped this night. It got there after dark for some stupid reason, and this train went by in the middle of the night, and as I recall, and some of these may be a little bit off, we didn't know we were by the train track, so all of a sudden we heard this, we about jumped out of the tent. And then once we recovered from that in the morning, we saw that the road along the track was better than the road. So there we went. There, I'm taking the lead, and here's Jim Oines there, the Norwegian, finding his way just like it was a South Dakota field. Peter Crane, I love that picture of him. We're having quite an adventure off-road. Meanwhile, back on the road. This is why we got off the road. That's rough, and Jim took great care of his rims, but unfortunately, toward the end, you can see that cracked at the seam. Well, there's no way to fix that except if you're a Norwegian from Volga, South Dakota. He took a water bottle clamp, bent it around like he form-fitted it, got his tire, and I don't think he could use his brake anymore, but off we went. And we went another, I don't know, day or two, but I like this because I'm like looking out, we're thoughtful, we're reminiscent, we're tired, we want it to end, we don't want it to end. And and one of the things we couldn't, we were in Bolivia, we're running out of money, we didn't have access to money. Like Jim says, there's nothing in here, lady, I'm sorry. John Dender was not singing here. And Jim's rim had collapsed, as you'll see in a minute. And we weren't together here. I think I was behind, and Jim came up on a bus, said, guys, I got to take it in. You guys ride in. And we looked at Jim, and we said, Jim ride in by himself in a bus, and us no. Community was a big thing for us. And so we always said, this is not about pride. It's not about we're great or strong. This is about the body of Christ. People going through these, our lives were touched in ways we can't even imagine. So we decided we're all going to go in that last 15 miles.
So this is August 5th. That would be day after tomorrow. 50 years ago, we arrived in La Paz, Bolivia. And we were 15 miles short. There we are the next morning, all cleaned up a little.
You can see Jim's rim there. We're just about done here. We got a little local music here. Another slide or two. Oh, yeah, we're doing that. But we didn't know, but they had a big parade. We thought it was for us. All the Army came out. Oh, wait, it wasn't for us. They had their 150th anniversary of Bolivia. We just pretended it was for us. We met Kindred again, those Lutherans from Minnesota, and we reunited with them. And then Peter had a birthday. Now, he turned 23 here. And just a couple days ago, 50 years later, what's that make you? 37, huh?
Backwards, yeah.
73.
Yeah.
So he had his birthday up there, and we went shopping. We didn't have much to carry with us, but very colorful. And Dick Gunderson, who Jeff Stoopes is later connected with in Nogales, he was there. And again, we spent time, and off we went. We were there about 3 weeks together. And we all went back. Jim started seminary, and this is going to end with this. Just enjoy this Andean mountain music and a few pictures from that part of the world. so much. And as Pastor said today, what are we building our barns for? We want to help us share, give to others in the name of Christ. One more slide, one more, or are we done? Anyway, I'll tell you what it said. A lot of people do a lot of things for money. We paid for our own trip. All the money went to the United Mission Appeal. It was $33 million, and I did a lot of capital campaigns. I figure our trip was like the video part of the capital campaign. Paul Evenson knows about that. And so we felt we had a significant part of a $33 million, and in today's dollars, that's about $200 million. I hope that for you, this is a preacher in me, that as you saw that, many of us are older, but that we all have a dream within us. We all have goals that we have. It's probably not going to be biking down there. I'd recommend not. But what we would say is, for all of us, that God called many people in old age. And some were not strong physically. It doesn't matter. So if we hope this inspired you, it's not to go biking, but it's just to be all God wants you to be. I'm going to ask Jeff, and Jeff's first here, right, buddy? We're all coming up. But you come on up, Jeff. We want to do a little something for Jim here. He doesn't know about this quite yet, but you can come on up. But we love Jim. He was the oldest one on the trip. You get him up here. He was, as you'll see, and we'll say more, he was Mr. Map. The joke was, did you guys have GPS? And the answer is, we don't need no GPS. We had Jim Oines. Here you go.
Thank you very much. This was a grand adventure for young men, but it's only part of our lives. We've all served, three of us as Lutheran pastors, and Peter went to Luther Seminary for 1 year and then bailed. They want him back. I met Jim because my girlfriend was going to the parish where he was serving as an intern in Palos Verdes. And one of my favorite memories of Jim was a pickup basketball game. Now, I know that you might think that this is a wild image of Jim. Can you imagine him going down the lane, leaping high into the air, his red hair flowing back, and dunking the basketball? No, well, that didn't happen. But I wish it had, and maybe it will someday. A new creation, we're going to do a pickup basketball game. Eric, you can join us, and we'll all be able to dunk the basketball. So we're very thankful for Jim as our elder brother in Christ, and we have some special things for.
Well, Jim's my buddy. I mean, it really started with Jim, and not only did he offer his coffee pot to a young guy from Ohio, but Jim really was the incentive of the whole thing. It was because of Jim that we went south, because I was ready to do anything. We were going to take a... I wanted to go to Alaska. We were a typical 22-year-old. We didn't know what we wanted. But Jim had been to Central America at college, at Augustana College, and it all directed there. And then you heard that story. But Jim's been my bud, our bud, for all of these years. And just one quick thing, and I'll turn it to Peter. We went to Mexico City, and we played basketball with the locals, and it was embarrassing. We we were so good. And then one of the guys said, how about playing soccer? You talk about humility. We couldn't even kick the ball. But anyway, I thought that was fair culturally. A little basketball, a little soccer. But anyway, Peter, go ahead.
Okay, Jim, so Mr. Matt, he's always Mr. Matt. We've been calling him Mr. Matt for 50 years. We love you, and we're going to give you something here. Okay, so this is for you, that one. That is one of the maps of our trip. My son put that on the bike for you. So anyway, that's Mr. Matt. And then this one, that's the real Okay. So in commemoration for 50 years of Cabeza Grande.
Oh, yeah, that was. Well, I'd seen that one.
There you go. There you have it.
Hey, a quick somebody gave me a note. How did we get back? And in one day, we took an airplane. And we didn't all come back together. Jim was back in school like a month later. And I stayed a little longer to do some things in Ecuador. But we were all there about 3 weeks after. We flew back in one day. And then we went on with our life. But it was a culture shock coming back. I saw Jim in November, and one of his seminary friends said, "What's wrong with Jim?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Kind of walks around like a zombie a little bit." I said, "That's called culture shock. For a whole year, you're doing what we did, and all of a sudden, you're taking Old Testament, theology or something." So, anyway, maybe one or two questions, and we'll let you go. Get back. How'd we do it every day? What would you say?
One day at a time, just like we all have to learn to live.
I just have some. We did it together. If somebody's ahead of you, okay. Well, we drafted on those windy days. The guy would, draft, and we could tuck in behind. You could get a lot of miles and rest for a while. And then it's your turn, and you're really taking the brunt of the wind. But we did it together. But I will tell you, when you lay over somewhere like Mexico City for a month, you're starting over. You lose it all. So it takes about a week of everyday riding. Wouldn't you guys agree with that? Yeah.
Whatever you say, Pete.
Well, when you're in your early 20s, less than the physical is the mental. You just it's a grind, and we didn't say a lot about it, but we had to work on our friendship. Every once in a while, I would irritate somebody, and every once in a while, he would irritate somebody, and maybe there were 2 or 3 times when we really spoke the truth in love, and it wasn't easy. And I remember we had communion a couple times, but without those times, we could have ended it.
There was a time where I was in the tent. I was tired, and there was some friction going on. It didn't involve me. And John, who's sort of the leader at times, and he said, "We're come on out of that tent, Peter. Why?" And he goes, "We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna get with the Lord." And I go, "I can hear you from here." I'm in the tent, but I came out. You just do that, At the end of the day, you care more about each other than whatever you're arguing about,
Yeah. So it was an ordeal. I was the only one who cycled the entire distance. And at the very end, after we'd gone 8,000 miles, we could have taken a boat across Lake Titicaca, all right? And I argued for that because I was hungry, I had no money. I had a girlfriend, but she dumped me. Anyway, so I want to get back to the States.
Story.
That's another story. And so we had a group meeting about that. So I argued to take, a boat across Lake Titicaca, and then we'd be like 5 miles from, our destination. I got outvoted. And so that's why I'm grumpy. At Desaguadero, we have a picture of the 4 of us where we look like desperados from the Old West. And but when Jim's rim broke, that brought us together. See, that trial, that eliminated everything else. We're sticking together. And that's how you do it. You stick together.
Yeah, there we go. Just by the way, the only reason any of us missed, it would be sickness. And we all went over 8,000 miles. We might have missed 50 miles here or there. Jeff was a rock. We couldn't stop him. But none of us, we had to take the bus the last 20 miles, whatever. But again, it wasn't about the pride. We all went over 8,000 miles. We were tough, but that's not what it was about. It was about four brothers in Christ learning. And I would say I was not going back to seminary. I was going to be a Bible camp director, which is fine. You didn't have to be ordained. After this whole trip, back to seminary I went, and changed my life, and it changed all of our lives. All of our lives. So anyway, one last question. We'll let you get out of here.
They threw a dart.
Oh, yeah.
Why La Paz was the end?
Eric, yeah, it was because it's the highest capital city in the world. It's sort of like it's because it's there. So we thought about having Lima as our destination, but it was short of 8,000 miles. So we wanted to go over the 8,000 miles, and what was the closest? That was La Paz. And it was also the highest capital city. And Bolivia is a really interesting country because it's mostly indigenous people, the Aymara and the Quechua speakers who inherited some of the old Inca languages. And it's a really fascinating country. We got to go out in the country to some of the churches that were out in the, and they all, I'll tell you one quick story. We went to a wedding with one of these small churches Dick Gunderson was helping to start. And everybody was sitting in a circle, and we see that there is a plate of some kind of food being passed around, and each person that would get it would dip their fingers in and eat a piece of it looks like some kind of pie. And when it got to me, I looked down. It was fish pie with minnows, all cooked in a pie. Full without having been skinned and cleaned, but these real tall, small minnows, and everybody was eating out of it with their own fingers. And a real lesson in how the people at those altitudes just continue to survive and take care of each other. And so, but yeah, that is a very, very fascinating country. It has the high mountains and the low valleys, but we really got to know some of the people there. So, but anyways, I really want to thank you all for coming. Yeah.
We really appreciate it, and thank you to Milo and Jasmine back there for putting it together. Pastor Eric's been great. By the way, does he always preach this well, or did he pull out a really good one for us today?
Good job, Eric.
Good job. Yeah. Randy, you want to introduce your wife there?
My wife, Mary, next to Randy.
Thank you for to the community outreach committee for getting the pupusas together, and there is a story about that. John, hold my cane, please. Oh, yes. Sherry, are you here? Sherry Grunwald? Sherry helped to organize this, and Mike Sadowski and her decided they would order some pupusas from Costco, and they tried them, and they were horrible. And then they weren't any good, nothing like the real thing. And then they thought, well, what are we going to do? Well, let's go back to the Salvadoran restaurant, because ICE just raided them, and they really lost some of their staff, and they lost a lot of money because ICE raided them. And so Sherry said, so we're going to get the pupusas from them so we can support them. And so that's the way we do it here. We respond, and we do it in a way that will be in solidarity with people. So, but anyway, thank you. I want to recognize people that have been very influential on me. Ellen and Phil Willis Conger were in Tucson when we worked in the sanctuary movement. And Ellen went on a lot of the roads that we went on in Mexico. She helped refugees all the way from the southern tip of Mexico up to Tucson, where people helped them get across. And then Sister Darlene at our church helped them get in sanctuary up as far as Chicago and other places. And Phil did a lot of the helping to cross. And so they were here. And Gordon Clint and Barbara Layton were also very helpful in helping Liliana and Pablito be defended when ICE was trying to support them. So thank you. We really honor you guys for the work you've done in the past. And so, well, thank you, and I honor all of you for coming and enduring all the talking here. And we hope you enjoyed the photos. Okay, everybody have a good day.
Oh, just one more thing.